like in a nutshell, right? Like how it's important to build and why it is super secure to build on Polkadot. I also always say this whenever I try to speak for Polkadot. You know, the security feature, of course, with the mix of the fund that you can support with the builders. I think it's very important. Yeah. So yeah, I think we can start by introducing ourselves. We can start with Christine.
Hi. Hi everyone. My name is Christine. I'm working for a project called Tanssi, working as the ecosystem development lead for the protocol. And just a quick introduction about Tanssi. For those of you who don't know Tanssi yet, Tanssi is an appchain infrastructure protocol. So the goal for Tanssi is to make appchain deployment easy. Max previously just discussed about the pain of setting up a parachain on Polkadot, and that has been a high entry barrier for many projects that want to enter the Polkadot ecosystem. So what Tanssi provides is basically a no-code deployment solution where it used to take like several months, 6 to 12 months to deploy a parachain. Tanssi enables the deployment of a parachain or an appchain in just under 10 minutes without needing to write a single line of code. So yeah, I can talk more about Tanssi later, but this is Tanssi in a nutshell.
Hey guys. Yeah, so it's my honor to be here today. My name is Ryan from SubWallet. So in short, SubWallet is right now the #1 wallet and the most comprehensive wallet for the Polkadot ecosystem, which is also EVM compatible. So we are available on all platforms like browser extension, mobile app, and web app. We have about 1.5 million users already, and you can just manage your both EVM assets and Polkadot assets in one single place. We offer all kind of Polkadot use cases in one single interface. So I can share more about our amazing features later on in the panel. Thank you.
Hi guys, I lead strategy and liquidity at Bifrost. Bifrost is a liquid staking app chain leveraging off the Polkadot SDK. And we're right now one of the largest L1s on Polkadot with about 120 million TVL. Happy to be here.
Thank you so much. So I will have two sets of questions for each of you and then one question for all of you. Okay? So I think since I'm with Tibo already, I'm going to start with you. Okay? So for Bifrost, can you explain how Bifrost's liquid staking solutions work within the Polkadot ecosystem and how they benefit the broader DeFi landscape?
Yeah, I think if you look at DeFi right now, it's a subsection of about $110 billion, right, in TVL notional. And the largest segment within that is liquid staking, about 60 billion. And we're seeing that, a big monopoly there is Lido on mainnet. And we're obviously seeing the subsection and sub-narrative of restaking, which now has about 20 billion in AUM as well. So obviously, liquid staking is an important primitive, I think, in DeFi, both in sort of bootstrapping ecosystems, use cases on-chain, and as well, solving the staking dilemma, right, between staking, being locked up, not having any capital efficiency, liquidity, and not being able to sort of participate in on-chain activity. So I think where Bifrost is a bit different is, we've been in liquid staking for now 5 years. From the very start, Substrate, so the Polkadot SDK was our choice in terms of tech value offering. I think Max has done a very good job in sort of showcasing why Polkadot versus other sections. So we've been sort of very committed in Polkadot since the inception. And we basically think that, app chains, dedicated chains for a specific service, we're seeing that now come to fruition. We've seen DYDX go as a DEX app chain. We're seeing Maker as well. We're seeing a few others. Aave came out with that news the other day. So I think, come to my point being here is we are, a solo chain doing that. And I think in Polkadot right now, we see about a market cap of about 5.7 billion in staking. 57% of that is being staked natively, and it's not being, used within the ecosystem. So liquid staking represents about, less than 2% on that front. So I think, we're there to sort of I would say, try and solve for that issue. So realistically, we want to bootstrap on-chain activity on substrate and EVM parachains, and then cross-chain, and try and bring use cases and sort of that liquidity on-chain rather than locking it up. So that's really our value offering right there.
Thank you. And how about for use cases, Christine, for Tanssi? Like, what appchain use cases have you seen in DeFi at Tanssi?
Yeah. So let me just give a really quick intro on what appchains are. So appchains basically application-specific blockchain. So you can kind of see it as an application that has an entire chain all for itself. And then they can customize the chain according to the project's needs. Things that can customize include, for instance, the gas fees, right? They can set it such that like only a certain number of transactions require gas fees. They can also, customize their own, for instance, their own dedicated governance. So they have more sovereignty to the governance. And then they can also use the token to capture more value, since in many blockchain protocol or dApps, a lot of the values are actually captured by the underlying token as gas, for instance, like ETH. So in terms of DeFi, in Tanssi, we're seeing a lot of ecosystem projects building around the RWA space. Because for RWAs, there are a lot of people are looking, have a lot of strong importance in security. And then also they are working a lot with traditional brick and mortar businesses, trying to bring them on chain. So as a result, chain abstraction is also a very important aspect of it. So in order to improve user experience and kind of to minimize the feeling of using gas fees, using wallets, certain customizations can be made to the chain. One example we have is called Kuna Finance. So it's originally a project built on Polygon. So basically the business is based in Latin America. And what the underlying business is basically to tokenize accounts receivables of many businesses in Latin America, and they're processing approximately $5 to $8 million per month. And these account receivables arise from credit card purchases from traditional consumers. And then in order to help businesses to improve their liquidity, Kuna Finance basically helps them to tokenize accounts receivables, bring them on chain, and also enables Web3 investors to have sort of like fixed income products to invest in. And then they are building a chain via Tanssi and Polkadot, and it's called BRX Finance. And what they try, and there are really two reasons they want to build this chain. Number one is chain abstraction. So they're working a lot with traditional businesses. So they want to, the outcome, the result they want to achieve is that they want these businesses, when they use it, they don't want them to feel they're using a blockchain. So that means, and it needs to kind of remove some gas fees, functionalities in the whole experience. Another thing is that they're building a kind of like an ecosystem, a suite of financial products around Kuna Finance. So in addition to accounts receivable, tokenization, there may be other things. So governance and kind of like a building an ecosystem and having a kind of sovereignty and governance all dedicated to their suite of products is also very important to them. So this is why they've chosen to build a chain and building an ecosystem around the product suite. So yeah, that's and then in addition to BRX Finance, and this is just one example, we're also seeing other projects, such as agriculture tokenization or tokenization of commodities, and then there are also certain projects that are building kind of like commodity dexes, all basically requiring the customization capacity of an appchain. So yeah, that's a quick summary of what's going on in DeFi space in Tanssi.
Nice, thank you so much, Christine. That's very interesting. So if you're planning to build your own product or appchain, you can go to Tanssi, you can go to Christine later on. I think for the next question would be for Max. So, Max, for the point of view of investment, what are the biggest challenges and opportunities that you see in Polkadot from an investment perspective?
You mean for investors deploying in Polkadot or for
No,
raising capital?
the challenges and opportunities that you see building that for builders.
Oh, like accessing capital, you mean? Yeah, yes. I mean, this is indeed a challenge. Yeah. I don't know who of you has been trying to raise money recently. I mean, last year, we were kind of still in the bear market. Now we're, in a much more bullish environment. So you would think that it's getting much easier, but unfortunately, it's still not that easy in the Polkadot ecosystem. I mean, I have heard a few rather unfortunate stories, to be honest, where some project is walking up to a VC and pitches their thing, and then the VC goes like, "Oh, you've got a good team, you've got a good product, but why are you building on Polkadot?" Right? So, for me, the takeaway here is it's the VC who doesn't get it, right? Because they are, many VCs are also just following the hype, to be really honest, right? They're like, "Oh, well, suddenly, whatever." Suddenly all the L2s on Bitcoin are so sexy, right? Or some meme coins are so sexy, right? I mean, then they're just hopping onto that next trend, and they're not really looking at the fundamentals, which, of course is stupid because yes, it can give you like a quick pump, a quick hype. There's a quick hype here, but like if you're thinking about long-term investments, that's not really gonna cut it. And so that's kind of why I really am so vocal about the importance of a new large Polkadot ecosystem fund, right? Who actually supports those projects, who are building on Polkadot, who are ticking all the right boxes, who are doing all the right things. I don't want to end up in a situation where these projects that are currently building on Polkadot, they're going to a different ecosystem, not because of the technology, but because they believe they can access funding more easily from VCs over there. I think that's wrong. I think that's short-sighted. And with our new fund, we want to change that.
Okay, thank you so much. That's very good to know. So I think for Ryan, for SubWallet, so what is the role of SubWallet in Polkadot DeFi landscape? And what DeFi features SubWallet provides, at least for the users in the ecosystem?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So actually, you may know that in order to enter a blockchain ecosystem or enter Web3, you need a wallet, right? So we are kind of the gateway for users to enter Polkadot ecosystem, and all of the parachains, all of the applications in the Polkadot ecosystem. So as I mentioned earlier, SubWallet is both Polkadot compatible and EVM compatible. So if you are coming from EVM ecosystem, you can just use SubWallet for both EVM assets and Polkadot assets. And at the same time, actually MetaMask cannot support Polkadot already, right? So for the DeFi in the Polkadot ecosystem, there are two things that I would like to mention. So firstly, on the application side, we have been working with all of the networks in the ecosystem and all of the applications in the ecosystem very closely from the beginning. So we had added support for 175 networks in the ecosystem. We have worked with hundreds of applications to integrate SubWallet into the app, so that the users can just connect SubWallet into their app and interact with the DeFi application in there. And on the other side, SubWallet also provide the most comprehensive DeFi solution on one single interface on all platforms like browser extension, mobile app, and web app. So, for example, we provide the most staking solution for the whole Polkadot ecosystem. You can do many kind of staking in SubWallet. For example, you can do native staking like direct nomination or nomination pool staking, not only for Polkadot and Kusama relay chain, but also for other Polkadot based chains like Vara Network, Aleph Zero, and so on. You can do also liquid staking in SubWallet. Like you can do liquid staking via Bifrost. You can do liquid staking via Stila Swap and so on SubWallet on all platforms. You can also do lending on SubWallet via Interlay and so on. We also provide the most cross-chain swap features for the Polkadot ecosystem in SubWallet. So you can do like cross-chain swap between DOT and EVM. So you can do like swap between DOT and ETH on Ethereum. You can do cross-chain swap between DOT and USDC on Ethereum. And you can also do cross-chain swap between Polkadot relay chain and other parachains inside SubWallet via Hydra DX. So we are also integrating Stila Swap as well. So kind of provide the most comprehensive cross-chain swap solution inside the wallet. One of the very main pain point of users when they do cross-chain swap in the Polkadot ecosystem is that they will need to do the cross-chain transfer between different parachain or relay chain into the destination chain first, and after that they will do the cross-chain swap. But for SubWallet, we enable the XCM transfer feature right inside the process of swapping. So you will not need to do it separately anymore, but we allow you to do it in a few simple clicks. So kind of we are trying to provide the most comprehensive DeFi and DeFi features for the whole Polkadot ecosystem in one single place. And have the Polkadot ecosystem to showcase their technologies, innovation in one single place. That is the example of how we have the DeFi ecosystem in Polkadot Growth.
So I'll have the second question for you, Ryan. For builders here, how can SubWallet support a new project building on Polkadot in terms of user onboarding?
Okay, thank you. So there are several things that we can support, and actually I think other people can also mention about how they can support a new project in the ecosystem, because in Polkadot we always try to work together and to grow together as the whole ecosystem. As I mentioned earlier, a wallet is like a gateway for any users to enter blockchain ecosystem and to enter a new project. So if you are building on Polkadot, whether it's a new parachain, it's a new appchain, or it's a new application, we can help you to quickly integrate your network or your tokens in order to help you showcase your technologies with the users. We also have the sub-connect solution that allows the application to integrate Polkadot wallets, not only SubWallet, but also all of the other wallets in the Polkadot ecosystem, not only non-custodial wallet, but also hardware wallets like Ledger, Polkadot Vault, and so on, into their application in a few hours. So that they can allow the users to connect to their application and interact with the applications in a seamlessly way. We also been in the Polkadot ecosystem since the beginning. So we work with each other. We work with just all of the projects in the Polkadot ecosystem. So we can help you to connect with other potential partners in the ecosystem to help you grow your users base and to grow your community. And besides, we are not only building SubWallet, but we are also building other infrastructure and wallet projects in order to help the projects grow their ecosystem. So for example, we have been building a Telegram gaming wallet called PlayNation. So we launched it about 2 months ago in mid-April. So the idea is that right now we have 900 million users on Telegram, and whenever you enter Web3, you use the Telegram. So think about how to onboard those 900 million users into Polkadot and into your project. So that's why we launched PlayNation. It's a Telegram gaming-based wallet to help you to engage with your users and your community. We can customize the games based on your background, your branding kit, and your product in order to help you interact with your users. You can do like quests on our Telegram wallet. You can do play to earn, learn to earn, and so on. Those kind of things in order to grow your users and keep your users active. So firstly, they can play the game off-chain, but later you can do many other on-chain activities to engage with your users. So those kind of products that we are building is trying to have the Polkadot ecosystem growth and trying to have showcase the robust technologies Polkadot ecosystem of the projects in the Polkadot ecosystem, and have onboard more and more users into the Polkadot ecosystem. And we also got funded by the Polkadot Treasury many times. So I think Max and other people can also mention about how to get funded by the Polkadot Treasury and funded by the decentralized funds later on. But we can also share about how to get support from the Polkadot Treasury, especially in the early days of the projects.
Thank you. I think it's important, like aside from the grants support, it's also important to have like the, let's say, Bifrost, SubWallet, Tanssi, and HIC to kind of work together. How new projects will build on Polkadot to have all the support that they need in terms of grants, in terms of technical aspect, in terms of getting users, right? So I think it's important to have that, and you are, the four of you are trying to really like discuss it, and it's very good to tell the audience here today. I think for staking in Bifrost, like the security part of it. So how does Bifrost leverage Polkadot's unique features to ensure the security and reliability of its staking products?
Yeah. So I mean, I'll keep it short, right? Because I think we're limited on time. But okay. So I think number one is shared security. Obviously, the key. I think everybody's been going on about restaking and how sexy it is, and Eigenlayer have done this and so forth. But let's not forget that the first sort of inception of restaking was Polkadot, with the parachains and restaking to the relay chain for security and so forth. So I think these L1s or these app chains or these parachains building off Polkadot and leveraging off this base layer are in itself sharing this security, and I think that's already a very compelling value proposition. Secondly, I think, as Max was saying earlier, in terms of interoperability, I think we're at a stage now in obviously the sector where you can't work in your siloed country without, with your siloed liquidity, without speaking to other countries and so forth, in terms of an analogy. And I think in terms of liquid staking being a very important part of on-chain economy and bootstrapping things, it's important to sort of think, I think, grander on that front. So I think on our ends, we're leveraging off XCM, which is Polkadot's cross-chain messaging format. We're able to communicate trustlessly in a decentralized way with other parachains within Polkadot. But now we're starting to see sort of that cross-chain focus going outside of the ecosystem, right? We're seeing Snowfork, which has been working on a trustless bridge between Ethereum mainnet and Polkadot for the last 4 years. So that'll be quite interesting. And then we obviously Hyperbridge, which is a recent parachain, which are connecting L2s and other blockchains with Polkadot. So I think on our front, we are sort of leveraging off the value proposition on the tech side of Polkadot for that, because we've noticed that within liquid staking, the issue is really siloed liquidity and the standardization of these assets, right? And the fact that we can issue all liquid staking assets via the origin chain, which is Bifrost. And then that can be crossed out to other chains. That's a big unlock on that front. So yeah, that's how we sort of leverage off Polkadot. But I think on your last point, in regards to teams in Vietnam who are looking obviously at Polkadot, whether it's DeFi or so forth, we have tried and we continue to try and be active in these different geographies. On our ends, I think we've got a very transparent open bounty type structure where we sort of try and provide ideas to the community in terms of what could be built, either on Bifrost or within Polkadot. We also have a very sort of clear grant program. Both our foundation and our treasury are open to allocating these funds to adding value to Bifrost. And we are also exploring different angles around, collaborating with the likes of Tanssi, Moonbeam, and a few others around doing open bounties or workshops and hackathons whereby we're leveraging off each other's features. And the goal essentially is to add value to the ecosystem and not just to our own project.
Okay, thank you, Thibaut. I just want to highlight that you mentioned about the security feature of Polkadot, right? Like aside from getting grants, like onboarding new users or building something, I think it's very important to have security first, especially for, let's say, for this kind of season of bull run, right? Like we do not know how much attraction we will get for our own project. So I think for the first thing that we have in mind should be the security. And security is Polkadot, right? So if you think about security, it's Polkadot. I'm not biased. Okay, I think next one would be for Christine. What strategies are you using to attract builders to your ecosystem in Tanssi?
Yeah, and so a big part of my job as the ecosystem developer lead is actually, explaining to people what appchains are, and then also, letting them know that deploying an appchain is just as easy as deploying a smart contract. But deploying an appchain gives you additional capabilities to build in more powerful features and adapt. So yeah, we work a lot with builders communities, and then we have a very strong DevRel support team where basically each of project in our ecosystem would have very fast response in terms of any technical support they need in the Telegram group. And then, we also do a lot of workshops to give people demonstration on how easy it is to have their own app chain. It's basically spinning up, and for instance, if you're an EVM project, you just need to spin up, click a few buttons on a dashboard, and then you have a chain ready, and then you can just upload your smart contract. It's just as easy as that. And then finally, we are still at testnet. So we have our incentivized testnet campaign, and then it's called Let's Fork and Dance. No, it's not a swear word, it's fork, not, yeah. And for this, we're allocating 1% of our network in terms of future airdrop for the community. And for the 1% split amongst builders, users, as well as blog producers. So this is also we want to lower the barrier and also to a competitive opportunity cost for experimenting with Tansi's product suite for builders. So yeah, so people can come and test out the products, and then they can also leverage on the entire campaigns in terms of community growth, social media boosts, etc., etc. So we want to take the whole ecosystem with us through this campaign to capture growth overall.
Okay, so to summarize, it's the convenience, right, and education that you are proposing to the community.
Yeah, convenience, education, support, as well as fun stuff.
Yeah. So by the way, I'm part of OpenGuild. So OpenGuild is we are your first step to Polkadot Ecosystem, right? So we are partnering with Tanssi also. So we have this monthly mini hackathon, and we have Tanssi as one of our tracks. So our mini hackathons would also open for everyone how easy it is to build and be part of the Polkadot ecosystem. So I think I just want to highlight the convenience of building and that you can focus on building, not coding. I think that's from Gao when he said builders should focus on building and not coding, right? Building something that they really want. So aside from that would be the workshops that you mentioned. So yeah, we also have that in our OpenGuild, in our mini hackathons. We are partnering with the ecosystem, with Polkadot ecosystem, and we are bringing them here in Southeast Asia. So yeah, this is just one of our initiatives. This event in Vietnam. Tomorrow you will see our booth, not OpenGuild booth, but Polkadot booth. Okay, so yeah, I think I just want to highlight that because I think we're all aligned, like how we all want Polkadot to push forward is the convenience of building in Web3. So I think for the last question for this set, for Max, so what trends within Polkadot excite you the most? And how are you positioning your investments to capitalize on these trends?
Sure. I mean, for Fund 1, we did a lot of infrastructure, right? Which I think was the right thing to do at the right time. There's the old saying, when there's a gold rush, sell shovels. That's like an easy way to make money, right? So what we did with Fund 1 is, things like decentralized storage, decentralized computation networks, bridges, wallets, NFT marketplaces, exchanges like DEXs, like this kind of stuff, right? So this is all infrastructure. This is stuff that we need for sure, no matter what are the actual things that are getting built on top of it, right? Or identity, also a big one, KYC tools, stuff like that, right? So it doesn't really matter what the end user application is, you'll always need this kind of infrastructure. I think now, over the past couple of years, like since Parachain's launch, Polkadot has been very successful in building out infrastructure. I think now already the infrastructure is second to none, right? This is very solid infrastructure. You're building like an app, you can draw upon these pieces of infrastructure, like standing on the shoulders of giants, right? Like it's the saying, right? You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You come in, you need a wallet, great, it's already there, you use it. You need an identity solution, great, it's already there, right? You need a privacy tool, great, it's already there. You need a DAO management software, great, it's already there, right? So this is, from our perspective, also how we invested our Fund 1. Now with Fund 2, and the whole changes that are going on with Agile Core Time and the whole Polkadot 2.0 narrative, I think this is also changing a little bit because infrastructure, it's already there, it's solid, it's working. The next question is all about users and adoption, right? Like end user application. So I think from an investment perspective, we're also shifting from infrastructure to more like user-facing applications, right? And on that end, there are, of course, also like a couple of really cool, exciting trends that we observe. So one, for example, is gaming, right? Like I already mentioned, like mythical games, really big, like OG, like they're bringing like millions of new users into the Polkadot ecosystem, right? We're invested there already. So, that's a great on-ramp. The other thing that, obviously everyone is talking about nowadays is DePIN, right? Kind of used to be called RWAs, but now there's a new term, which is kind of, it's referring to like a similar concept, I think, is this DePIN, these decentralized infrastructure networks, like physical infrastructure networks. There are a bunch of companies that are very successful in implementing that. I guess one shout out that I can make is to Peak Network. Also, full disclosure, they're a portfolio company of us since the very beginning. They've been doing DePIN before the word DePIN did exist, right? And I think it's an amazing use case for Web3, right? Connecting different pieces of physical infrastructure. They're doing a lot of cool things, like for example on agriculture, right? Or like sensors, like rains or wind sensors, like bringing that onto the blockchain. They're doing like decentralized electric vehicle charging stations, right? They're doing like serverless cloud, right? So yeah, this intersection between the physical space and the blockchain space, I mean, you know, the sky's the limit. There's so many things that can be built there, but these are like end user applications. These are things where, you know, the real world, so to speak, is interacting with the blockchain world. And in terms of investment trends, I think this is kind of where we're focused now more and more, because as I said, the base infrastructure, the blockchain infrastructure on Polkadot is already very well built out. Now it's all about like how do we get the next billion of users.
Very good to know, and I really agree to that. For the next question, I'm just curious. This is for Ryan. Ryan is someone from Vietnam. What are the unique challenges of blockchain startups here in Vietnam that you still face or you've been facing that the Polkadot can help solve?
Okay, thank you. That's a very interesting question. We've been building for a few years now, and also our friends also building in the blockchain ecosystem for a while now. And I've been talking to a lot of them. Through my observation, I think the Vietnamese builders and Vietnamese blockchain startups has some weaknesses. So firstly, they lack of a really long-term strategy to build a global product. And secondly, they lack of enough resources in funding in order to scale their product big enough compared to other builders in the developed countries like US or Europe. So for example, about the long-term vision, you can see a lot of DeFi projects coming from Vietnam in the last bull market. And I'm not sure, maybe 90% of them disappear. You don't see them anymore now. So I think those are the very important things that we need to pay attention in order to build a successful blockchain project in the really long term. And I think Polkadot has really good resources to provide and to help them with those two things. Firstly, about long-term strategy and long-term vision. So you see that Gavin come from Ethereum as a co-founder, and he was the CTO of Ethereum, and he was the creator of Solidity. And after that, he left to build Polkadot from 2016. You know, a few years ago, not many people talk about a multi-chain ecosystem. But for now, you see many people, many builders talk about multi-chain. Multi-chain is the future, and so on. And we can see many new terms about a multi-chain ecosystem like aggregation, like unified layer, and so on. But the concept is a multi-chain ecosystem where every single blockchain can connect to each other. And Polkadot talked about it in 6-7 years ago, and they actually, technically, they have successfully produced that vision. So Polkadot really think about long-term strategy and long-term vision of Web3, of multi-chain as a whole. So some people might think that Polkadot is slow, but I think that's because of they think about the next 5 or 10 years in the future and care about the infrastructure technology, as Max mentioned, and they care about solving the problem of blockchain trilemma. So that's why many people can see that Polkadot is quite slow, but we see the positive thing about really long-term vision and long-term strategy. So I think that's Polkadot can help Vietnamese builders with that kind of mindset. It's very important to have a long-term strategy and long-term vision mindset when you start to build something. And secondly, about the funding, enough resources to build in the long term. So in Polkadot, we have many resources. for a new project when they start building in Polkadot. So in the early days, they can apply for Polkadot Treasury, or they can apply for decentralized future funds. I think right now we have about 40 million in the decentralized future funds, and we have about 200 or 300 million US dollar in the Polkadot Treasury. And those kind of the amount of fund is ready to fund and to grant the projects that really long term and really add the value to the Polkadot ecosystem as a whole. And I think that's very important in the early day of a project, because in your early day, as Max mentioned, that you are not ready to get funded by the VCs. And also, when you are in the early days and you get invested by the VCs, it can be not a good thing, because the VC always think about return on investment, and they always try to push you to have revenue quickly, to have profit quickly. So you cannot focus on building the project and solving the problem that you are trying to solve. So in the early days, you have the grants and funding from Treasury and from Web3 Foundation. That can be a good thing. And after that, in a later stage, when you have better traction, when you have better network and you have better user base, you can know what is your long-term strategy, and you make sure that you can bring return on investment, you can bring value to your VCs. So at that stage, you can start to call for investment from VCs like Harbor Capital, from Skytail and other Polkadot ecosystem funds. Yeah. So I think that's the two really important things for Vietnamese builders compared to the more developed builders, more developed countries like US or Europe.
Thank you, and I'm happy to know that Polkadot is already solving that right now. Like everything is ready. It's just we're just waiting for builders, right? And we're waiting for the Vietnamese builders to come on board. And they have OpenGuild for that. You know, OpenGuild is their it's their go-to in terms of learning or joining mini hackathons. You know, all these things. So thank you for that, Ryan. And for builders, I think, or let's say for Bifrost, Tanssi, SubWallet, or maybe Max can say something also. So what's the benefit of the support coming from institutional investments? How do you see the benefit from getting that and like boosting your project more?
Well, I'd say currently we have no support, right? So I think the only institution per se who's been active, you know, since the start is obviously Max's fund, right? They've obviously deployed a lot of capital and have transitioned to sort of having skin in the game and using, you know, DeFi, which exists on Polkadot. But realistically, and this is me, I mean, trying to be as honest as possible, liquidity, you know, volumes are not super high simply because, you know, we took the tech aspect rather than thinking more about, you know, the market aspect from that point of view. So what I mean by that is, you know, there's not much liquidity. We've only really seen, you know, Asset Hub being used now, stablecoin deployments being done, and more importantly, custodians haven't integrated into Polkadot because it's very complex. So that's the biggest problem. I think there are obviously native funds, you know, there are hedge funds, LPs, but then again, they, you know, they were interested in Polkadot back when Polkadot was obviously very important and sort of the new thing in town, but they've now moved away, right? They've returned their funds to LPs, they are looking at other opportunities. So I think our goal now is essentially to solve those sort of, you know, onboarding obstacles, which I think we're doing so very well now. And the next step is to bring sort of compelling primitives on chain, and you know, sort of trying to showcase our value offering. And I think then the LPs and, as Max said earlier, you know, the liquid strategies and the ecosystem funds can come in and deploy into something which is a bit more mature. But Bifrost, to be very frank with you, hasn't really benefited from institutions for the time being. We might see, who knows, you know, maybe a DOT ETF at some point, which, you know, should could show some interest to adopt, but native institutional adoption hasn't occurred.
Okay, so Ryan needs to go. Sorry for another segment. It's fine. It's fine. Thank you so much for your time, Ryan. See you. Thank you. How about for Tanssi?
So you're asking like what are the benefits of having institutional backing, right? I guess like I mean funding is the obvious benefit, right? So having funding helps projects to expedite the development process and enable them to ship products as fast as they can, and also enables projects to hire the best talent in the industry. So I mean having funding is definitely crucial for a project to succeed in a relatively short time window, especially if they want to like capture the market momentum and making sure that they're shipping the products in the bull market. I think in addition to that, I think there are several other benefits, right? So for instance, institutional endorsements also helps to boost a project's credibility. And then projects can also leverage on the networks of the institutional investors. We've had lots of warm intros from, and also support in terms of networking from our investors, helping us to network with portfolio companies and build our ecosystem and via the introductions. And then I think at the end of the day, it's all about like, making friends and also, being helpful and supportive, and not just, from investors to projects, but I think it also goes the other way around. And then we've also introduced, projects to our investors as deal flow, and then we also support our ecosystem projects to get connected to any investors they would like to speak to. Obviously, we're not financial advisors in this process, but it's all about just being helpful wherever we can. So I think it's really important, like when projects choose institutional investors, and not just like just because funding is important, but at the same time you kind of need to be really careful of the terms. And I know some VCs or accelerators that have very, I would say, aggressive terms in case of projects are late to ship. So I think these are things that projects need to be very careful and think very carefully in terms of like what sort of funding they're receiving. But overall, I think it's just very important to. I see kind of getting investment institutional investors almost like marriage, right? So you kind of need to be very careful in terms of who you're married to and who you're working with, and ideally they just don't support you not just from funding, but also from a strategic, also provides strategic benefits and can think growth in your position rather than thinking about returns alone for themselves. So I think that these are what I think about institutional investors.
Okay, I think that's it for today. We have to end our panel already. And thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Thank you, Tibo. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Max, for spending time with us. Please feel free to join or reach out to them today. Thank you so much.